Welcome to Diary of a Dreamer, where resilience unlocks your potential. I'm Tasha Eizinger, and each week I'll bring you powerful stories and practical insights from my own experiences and inspiring guests. Whether you're facing challenges or chasing dreams, this podcast is your go-to for motivation, building confidence, and practical tips for transforming obstacles into opportunities. Be sure to check out my website, tashaeizinger.com. Let's dive into today's episode and start turning your dreams into reality. Today is a bit unorthodox because I am going to be interviewed on my own podcast by my beloved friend, Kelly Bell. And Kelly, do you remember pitching this idea to me last summer?
I do. It was one of those things where, I've heard pieces of your story and I find it very inspirational, but it's something that I think that I wanted to hear more. So there was a curious part of that,
Yeah.
And then the other part of it is I just think that there is a lot of awesome takeaways for other people. There's camaraderie in the struggle, but then also a hope for the future. I'm honored to be able to do this and to interview you. You're such a special person, and you have such a fascinating story to tell. But before we dive into the story, I just want to hear a little bit, or for you to share with everybody, what special things do you have going on right now in your life that are kind of like the culmination of all of these life experiences that have brought you to this moment. So what do you have going on right now that's really awesome that you want to share?
Yeah, I feel really fortunate to be where I am right now. And, I love being in my 40s. I feel so confident to be in my 40s. I know more of who I am, partly because of all these crazy experiences that I've had. I'm also doing well in my business. Like, I just published my 6th book. I'm getting ready to launch. At the time of this recording, I'm getting ready to launch my Little Shop Publishers Workshop. By the time this airs, it will be out into the world, which is incredible because that's been years in the works.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've learned. Most of the things in my life are years in the works. And, my family, we're all doing really well. And I've got great friendships and relationships, really strong, solid people in my life, which is relevant to this conversation as well. So yeah, I feel really grateful. And also there's a part of me that's like, it's okay that life's going really well right now.
Yeah. That's a tough one sometimes, right? To not be constantly looking for that next shoe to drop, but to be like, okay, no, it's all right to be all right.
Yes. You can breathe.
Yeah, exactly. Take these moments. So before we dive into your story, I think it's important to say that neither Tasha or I are medical professionals. We are not psychologists. So disclaimer that this is not something to replace professional medical help if you need it. This is simply just a testimony of Tasha's life experiences. And so there will be some tough topics that we're going to cover in this conversation. So
and I will put in the show notes, like, some links if I think that there's something relevant and professional.
Yeah.
That I will include that in the show notes because this stuff is heavy and some of it is dark, and it's really important to get professional help. So we're not treating, preventing, prescribing, diagnosing, anything. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tasha, for giving us a little bit of your update on what's going on now. But that's not where you started. So let's go back in the Wayback Machine, all the way back to the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your childhood, your relationship with your parents and your siblings, where you're from. Yeah, just a little bit of an overview of like little Tasha. What was life like for little Tasha?
Aw, little Tasha. Always been short, I can say that.
Preach.
Oh my. So I'm really fortunate. I had such a great childhood in many, many ways. And from the outside looking in, it was about as good as it gets. And even in my own home, like, to have two loving parents who loved each other and loved their kids. Were they perfect? No. Were they freaking awesome? Yes, of course they were. And brothers that I love who love me back. We all care about each other and support each other. There's no jealousy. That is pretty much the jackpot in life. And then I also grew up in a really nice area. That's how Kelly and I met. Like, we went to the same school. And so, it's a good community and a good area to grow up. So there were so many things going for me to help me have a strong foundation, which is, I think, what has helped me work through some of this stuff.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about our community, because I mean, I know, but maybe listeners don't know how special Syracuse, Indiana is. So can you tell me a little bit about, the environment, the people, some fun things, fun facts, if you will.
Fun facts of Syracuse, Indiana.
Yeah. Some of your like memories that you cherish.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it was, we did get to just go out and ride our bikes as kids. And, we didn't have the internet and cell phones pulling at our attention, so it was playing outside, and there's a lot of lakes in our area. So getting to share memories with friends with the water. Now, it's also a small town. So to get to, let's say, a Walmart, it's like it was a 45-minute drive.
Yes, it was.
So when people nowadays say, oh, you don't have to come on the other side of town, I'm like, it's 15 minutes.
Yeah. If you forgot eggs or sugar or whatever, you're making cookies, like, you're done.
Well, you go to the neighbors.
Well, yeah. Or where I lived, that was even a drive.
Yeah. This is true. Yeah.
Yeah. I think about the fact that, in middle school, literally our entire middle school was surrounded by cornfields.
Yeah.
A funeral home across the street.
A school, a church, and a funeral
home and cornfields. That pretty much sums up. And if you look a little further, there's a lake. Yeah, that pretty much sums up our childhood. Yeah. So, kind of the all-American classic life, if you would think about like the childhood setting. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with your mom, because I know it still is special.
Yeah, my mom and I have always been very close. Actually, there was a man just recently that I had to educate him.
Oh.
Because I was saying that my girls and I have a great relationship, and I'm grateful for that. And he said, oh, well, they're not teenagers yet. And I said, I have always had a really good relationship with my mom. And I think part of it is because even during those teen years, she would listen without judgment. She would let me ramble and just get it out, whatever I had to say. She truly loved me and cared about me. So my recognition or awards, it was not a reflection of her as a mom or giving her merit. She always said, I'm happy for you. Yeah. It was always about what was best for her kids, and it still is what's best for her kids and grandkids. She's just a truly exceptional person. I wish she would come on my podcast, but she's very private as well.
Yeah.
She has much to teach us about how to be a woman, how to be a mom, how to be business minded. I mean, she really is incredible. So even during those challenging teenage years, I always knew she loved me, and I knew I loved her. And there was a level of respect that's just always been there. And my dad also made sure, like, we had better respect our mom.
Yeah.
Like, that was made very clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't talk back to mom. Yeah. So, I mean, you and your brothers were really active. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, it's not like you all were sitting at home twiddling your thumbs, staring at walls. Like, you guys were busy doing stuff. Tell me a little bit about that, and then your parents' role in supporting you guys in those endeavors.
Yeah, we never had everything we wanted, but we always had everything we needed to be successful. And so we were involved in a lot of things. I know in 6th grade, I tried a lot of different activities just to see what did I want to pursue.
What
But
were what were some of the flops? I gotta know.
oh, Kelly.
Come on, come
Well,
on.
okay. I played basketball in 6th grade and I'm not good at all, but I got fouled and have a 100% free throw average because I made 2 for 2. I was like, God, if this is the one time I'm going to actually do something right in basketball, please let this be right now. And I got both of them. And those were like the only 2 points I made the whole season.
That's amazing. That was like me. I did volleyball in 6th grade, and that was when I realized that I was not a sports person. And I was the one where they would every once in a while throw me in just to see if maybe by chance I had gotten better. And then they're like, nope, not yet.
Stick with the arts, my love.
Yeah. Okay, well, so no on the basketball. So where
Yeah.
did you really find your place?
Yeah. So I started swimming because my older brother was a swimmer.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was tired of being hot all the time. And then I learned I actually was tired of being cold all the time because swimmers are perpetually cold. But he started swimming. So what's funny, my parents didn't create middle child syndrome in me by any means, but society has because my older brother was a swimmer. He did 4-H, he did FFA. He did do track one season. He's known as the swimmer. People who know our family, he's known as a swimmer. I also swam for 10 years. And then my younger brother, he did baseball. He did football for 1 year. He did baseball. He did 4-H, all of that. I also did 4-H. Didn't love it. It's a great program. I didn't love it. My younger brother is known for doing 4-H. So people are like, so what did you do?
Like nothing. I did nothing.
Sat around all the time. That's it. Oh my word.
Oh my goodness. Well, you definitely weren't a middle child in my eyes. I always looked up to you. I always thought of you as an amazing swimmer, but that's partly probably because I didn't ever really know your brother. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
Um, so you guys were busy, obviously involved, and your family owned a business. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was actually started by my great grandfather. He was a pioneer in hybrid seed corn. So I think it was even like at Purdue, they contacted him. It was a big deal at the time to have hybrid seed corn when he started the family business. And it started in this little like shed.
Oh wow.
And the rest is history, right? That's
Right.
kind of the way it goes. It starts in a garage or a shed. And then my grandparents continued on with the family business. And then my parents were the only board members who, in their generation, were actively working the business. So my dad was a seedsman, he did the genetics. Hybrid seed corn is very different than typical farming, too, because sometimes it would be like, oh, the temperature's this, the humidity's this. I have to go right now. I have 15 minutes to get started, or this season's destroyed, basically.
Oh wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's very intense, lots of stress, and of course, so many things out of your control when it's farming. We talked
Yeah.
about weather all the time. In our house, weather was not small talk. It was important,
Yeah.
or sometimes my dad would have to go in the middle of the night to check on the dryer or repair something. And so it was a very involved business. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for quite a while and then had to step into the role as secretary. Of course, she was the vice president of the company, but she stepped in as secretary sooner than what she would have wanted to, and had to learn all of that. And it was, truly a small family owned and operated business. I detasseled corn, which is great learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I I had heard stories. I never detasseled corn, and I did everything in my power to avoid detasseling corn, partly because um, as a fair-skinned redhead, that would have been like the worst idea ever, just
Yeah.
baking out in a field for hours upon hours. But my hat goes off to any of those kids that did. You haven't, yeah, you haven't really experienced true farm life until you've gone through detasseling. So I've heard, not
Yes. Well,
firsthand account.
here's what's interesting. My mom still to this day says the kids who kept coming back every year, which by
Mm,
the way, earning, what was it, 4.25 an hour, 4.13 an hour when I
yeah.
was 11 years old was incredible. I was like, I'm making bank,
Yeah.
right? And so, but kids would come back every year. And she said the ones who did have become successful in life.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of that kind of weaves into a little bit of the fabric of who you are. Your dad sounds like a pretty incredible dude. Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with him and, and how it was unique and special?
Yeah, I feel like as I've gotten older, I realize how similar we actually
Hmm.
are.
You and your dad?
Yes.
I see it, right? The entrepreneurial spirit, and yeah, but don't, spoilers. You tell me about this guy.
Well, he definitely was such a good man.
Yeah.
He genuinely loved people and serving people and truly loved all of us. Now, he also was not perfect. He was a challenging person at times as well and did not necessarily enjoy teenagers. He would tell me, teenagers think they're always right. And I'm like, well, no, I just learned it like in human phys and anatomy today, like in the textbook. I'm not saying I'm right, but this is what I just learned from the textbook.
You're like, just because we're not always right doesn't mean we're always wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful that I got to be a college student
Mm,
towards the end of his life because I got to know him in a different way. And
yeah.
sometimes we'd be playful together and kind of tease my mom together and different things like that. So yeah, I'm so grateful for the values that he taught me through his example as well. He used to say, if I have to tell you I'm a hard worker, then I'm not.
Mm,
So he really did practice what he preached, and he wasn't out preaching, he was out actually showing.
yeah.
And same thing with my mom, they both had that as like a core parenting philosophy is they have to be the example first.
Hmm.
And I'm thankful that they set high standards for themselves of how you operate and function in the world
Yeah.
because it is a good example. And my
Yeah.
dad was also he was an identical twin back in a time period where you could have a lot of fun as a twin and pull pranks and do all sorts of silly things and was truly the life of the party. He had a
Hmm.
zest for life, so it's
So you're
fun. Go ahead.
sorry. No, no, it's fine. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's fun seeing my older daughter in that way reminds
Mm.
me of my dad, and I'll tell her, Grandpa Tom's smiling down at you right now. Like he liked that little joke that you just said,
So your dad was an identical twin. Did your uncle go into business too, or was he like your dad?
Well, it's kind of funny because entrepreneurship's really on both sides of my family, but
Yeah.
stronger on my mom's side of the family.
Hmm.
My dad got into it because he was thrown into it.
Interesting.
Now his identical twin, it's so funny. They sounded the same for the longest time. Like if you close your eyes, you could almost hear my dad in a lot of ways. But he did have a business as well, shear country. He
Mm.
was a great sheep shearer, and
Oh,
that's what he was known for. He was very good at it and would go to different like fairs and things like that and shear people's sheep for them.
oh,
So that was his business.
oh,
And then he got into construction and did something different in
yeah.
later years.
Interesting. Oh, things I never knew. So, your relationship with your dad, very different than your relationship with your mom. Sounds like, your mom was that person that you would go to and talk to about things. And it sounds like your dad was kind of that aspiration, like the hardworking, I want him to be proud of me. What was the thing that would make your dad most proud of you? What were those, can you give me a moment where you really felt like my dad sees me and he's proud of me? Can you tell me a time?
Actually, the biggest moment that I realized it, which it's kind of sad that it's when I really realized it,
Yeah.
is at his viewing.
Mm.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it was raining outside and people waited for hours in the rain to come pay their
Wow.
respects. And everybody, pretty much everybody that came through would share a time that my dad helped them and like went above and beyond. And I had no clue
Mm.
how many people he was helping all the time, even a stranger. She's like, you have no clue who I am, but I want to tell you what your dad did for me. And took it upon herself to come share this and wait for hours in line. And the other thing that happened at the same time as they're talking about what a great man he was and all the good that he did was, I know so much about you and your brothers and your family.
Oh.
I know who you are.
Mhm.
And he would tell everybody about us. I'm like, people were probably annoyed about hearing about my brothers.
Oh.
Like, just always telling people. And my mom and I have said that if my dad knew that I was an author and that he was pieces of inspiration within the story, he would be busting at the seams. And you better believe everybody on the planet would be, they would have my books. He would make sure he was giving them to everybody. Like, he was very proud of us for being who we were. So that's when I really realized it.
Yeah.
And I also know he was tough on me because he saw my potential.
Yeah.
So sometimes it was a little misconstrued. He didn't know exactly what to say to a daughter who got significantly better grades than he did growing up. So he tried to challenge me in his own way. And he was very proud of just his kids for being who we were.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. I feel like it's one of those situations where he didn't tell you, but he literally told everyone else.
True. Like literally everybody else. I was shocked. I was like, I don't know who this person is talking to me right now, but they know a lot about me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a really cool story. So, you mentioned the fact that you are so much like your dad. Obviously, the entrepreneurial part of it is, what else would you attribute, characteristics of yourself to your dad? And then I'll ask, what characteristics of yourself do you attribute to your mom?
Yeah. I think my heart for serving people comes from my dad.
Mm,
He was always thinking of how he could help other people. It just was very natural. And also, he was more emotional than my mom.
really?
Yes, he had big emotions and he didn't always show it, because he was still a, tough guy type thing.
Yeah.
But he definitely had big emotions and he also just didn't know when to quit. So like even when I was in track in middle school, I was better in middle school track than I ever was in high school. And I heard all these other girls saying they couldn't stand running into the wind, which is very reasonable.
Yeah.
And this is so my dad. I was like, all right, then running into the wind is my bread and butter and I love it. And it's easy because I'm short and I just cut right through it. So in their head, they're like, this is so hard. I'm like, piece of cake. And I did really well in track, I think partly because of some of those mindset shifts. And that's definitely my dad. For sure.
Reframing things to
Yeah,
think
and just
about them.
competitive.
Interesting. No, I mean, what a wonderful life skill too. That to be able to say, okay, I'm going to take this thing that everybody around me sees as a negative and turn it into not only a positive, but kind of my superpower.
Yeah,
And
I'm going to win because of it.
yeah.
And he also is very much like, if you tell me I can't do it, watch me.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
it's fuel.
I hear that. So what about your mom? What characteristics would you say are your mom in yourself do you see? Or maybe even in your daughters too, because sometimes that's an easier mirror,
Yeah. My love for psychology is 100% my mom. We would have really interesting conversations growing up that, her resources, of course, were books at the library.
Yeah.
And so I also think my patience, definitely not my dad. That's definitely my mom. My mom is really patient. And she's also, both of my parents were fierce protectors. And, also for my mom, her strong intuition, we both sometimes will get really strong feelings about something that we can't exactly explain.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're psychic or anything like that, but we get really strong feelings. And I definitely get that from her as well. I think what's special about my parents is I get to be a little bit of both of them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
and I think that's pretty special. And I see that in my girls too. Both of my girls have aspects of my parents that make me
Hmm.
smile.
Yeah. Yeah. I always my grandfather passed away before I was born, my dad's dad. And I always loved it when my grandma would look at me and she'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that is so your grandfather." And I was like, I never met him, but to know that that little piece of him lives in, yeah, that's a really cool thing.
It's
Um,
special. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think your girls will grow up cherishing that too, you know.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Well, I mean, so you had this, I mean, a truly blessed childhood in many ways, with wonderfully supportive parents, that gave you some great character, um, habits and training. You had brothers that sounds like were equal parts, supportive while also being, appropriately challenging as siblings. Uh,
Say lovely.
but your childhood wasn't 100% perfect. You experienced a trauma when you were really little, that it affected your worldview, and especially the way that you viewed yourself, and something that honestly has stayed with you your whole life. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was barely 4 years old. And I will never be grateful for the experience by any means. I think that's total bullshit when people say, "Oh, this horrible thing I went through. I'm grateful." No, I'm grateful for who I've become as a
Yeah,
result. And I'm glad I've learned the lessons. I just am not glad how I had to learn them.
yeah.
And so, my parents were very protective. And I think that if a bad babysitter who was a high schooler could groom my parents and groom me and get away with it, it really can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And that's not being cynical or trying to plant fear in people. It's the reality of the way those type of manipulators work. And it definitely was something that I repressed because it was so traumatic and didn't speak up about it for many years. And my mom even asked after I was babysat, like, did something happen? Or I was like, nope, nothing happened. Nope, not at all. And didn't want to talk about it because they always say that you're the bad guy.
Isn't that interesting? Even at the young age of 4, I mean, because they talk about how victims will often, suppress or, they don't want to share or tell about what's going on, either because of fear or shame or any number of things. And you don't think about how even at such a young age you fall into that trap
Hmm.
of of thinking that it's my fault or I can't share or shame. Like a 4-year-old can feel that too.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about, like, what that feeling was like and how it manifested, and especially with the interactions with your mom at a
Mhm.
young age because of that?
Yeah. So I definitely think it's interesting, like you're saying, that at such a young age, those seeds are planted.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, because of the age discrepancy, he planted those seeds in me very
Hmm.
intentionally. Like, you will get in big trouble. Don't tell anybody. Like, it would be all my fault, which is
Hmm.
why even to this day, I have to check myself. Do not take responsibility for other people's actions.
Hmm.
So I tend to take the blame more than I should. I've gotten so much better over the years. And then, you know, I feel like I saw my mom as my hero because when she came home, it was done, right? So she was there. She like rescued me.
Hmm.
And so I had a therapist one time try to say, like, a lot of times people are mad at their parents. I'm like, no, my parents never in a million years would have ever allowed that to happen to me. Never. Right. So when somebody who's so loving and supportive, like my mom, kept asking, like, does anything happen? Are you okay? Because I was acting funny. There's even pictures of me after the experience, and I have dead eye. Like, I
Hmm.
look very distant. And So she knew, but I, of course, refused. One question I did ask her, she put it in my baby book at 4. I said, "What do you do with a broken heart?"
Mm.
So my heart was shattered because this was somebody I had wanted to marry someday. Like that's how groomed I was.
Wow.
And so when you have somebody that you really look up to disrespect you in the worst way,
Yeah. Very
it
personal, intimate way. Yeah.
yeah, it makes it really hard then having relationships of the opposite gender when you're growing up, like romantic relationships, I guess,
Yeah.
growing up of what does that look like? And so that really resulted in some not good choices on my part because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were always very high achieving. I mean, obviously part of that was, because of the work ethic that your parents instilled in you, specifically your dad, just being that, never quit, you know, take take the tough situation and turn it into my superpower, so there's that aspect of it. Um, how did that trauma play into your high achieving spirit as well?
Yeah, my theory, I don't
Yeah,
know for
sure.
sure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Your
My
sense about it.
Yeah, when now I'm achieving a high achiever because I love it. And
Yeah,
I like to tease, I'm not a high achiever. Either you achieve or you don't.
right, right. That's
Okay.
fair.
That's another therapy session in the making.
Yeah, it's right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. But uh,
But
you know,
yeah, when I was younger, I really do believe what drove that achievement in me is if I am the best, not just because I'm competitive as well, but if I'm the best and I'm getting recognized and I'm in the newspaper or I get the award, nobody will know how bad of a person I am,
mm,
which makes me so sad because I am genuinely a good person. And I know that. And it's taken a lot of work for me to say, no, I really am. Like Kelly, you know, a lot of the things that I've thought that aren't the best,
yeah, yeah.
you know, but I wouldn't define myself as a bad person. But it was more of just like, nobody can know how bad I am. And it was ingrained in me on a subconscious level in elementary school because I didn't speak up about it. I didn't even remember what happened until I was 10. I completely suppressed it.
Wow. So
Yeah.
do you mind sharing what happened when you were 10 that brought that to your mind, or that brought that awareness?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how things can be triggered in us, in our
Yeah.
brains, right? So we were doing like a counseling class. We had a great guidance counselor in elementary school, and we watched a good touch, bad touch video.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
And all of a sudden, I started getting flashbacks, and I was like, what is happening? And my heart was racing in my stomach. And I was like, wow, I have quite an imagination. Why am I thinking this? There's no way this stuff ever happened to me. And then I just couldn't let it go that day. And then at dinner time, I couldn't even eat. My parents were like, what is going on? Like, I just was really upset, clearly. And
Mhm.
finally, I was like, I have to tell you something. And then that's when just my parents and I left the room and I told them, and here's the thing that's so important. They believed me
Mm,
100%. They asked questions to clarify and to understand, but not to doubt me. And I
mhm.
thought that was really important. Now, the therapist, that's another story, but they
Huh.
did a phenomenal job in their role
Yeah.
and trying to get me resources to help me.
So, did you feel that shame or that I'm a bad kid from the age of 4 to 10 without understanding, why? You just had that feeling, or was at 10 did that start where all of a sudden now you had the shame and you realized, and then you felt that like I'm a bad person? Or was it just a
You know,
subconscious thing that you couldn't really?
I think it was more subconscious. I don't remember thinking I was bad in
Mm.
elementary school. You know, I had a boyfriend, of course. That was one thing. I always had a boyfriend. But they were like good guys, you know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what does that even mean in elementary school to have a boyfriend? But, we'd swing on the swings together or something.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
Very important stuff. But I think it was just that innate sense of wanting to be perceived as really good.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? I
Asking about, like, your identifying yourself as a bad person. Was it something that you always had in, like, from
Oh,
that
you know
trauma
what?
to, or was it at 10 when you're like, oh my gosh, this happened, and all of a sudden now I own the dirtiness, or now I own that shame?
Yeah, I think it probably was around when I realized it.
Hmm.
But I do think initially I was just like, did that actually happen?
Hmm.
Which is very common, I feel like, for anybody who's experienced trauma is it's too much for your brain to process.
Yeah, deny. Like, I deny it because I can't process it.
Yeah, and especially because, like, I did come from a good family. I wasn't in an environment that was going to have things like that happen. My mom was pretty much around us all the time.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, she really did raise us mostly because my dad was working a lot. So she was working a lot too, just in a different
Hmm.
way. And so I do think it took a while, but then, like, after I realized, that's when I started being interested in the bad boys
Mm.
because I wanted to make them good.
So all of a sudden you're like, I need to find all of the people that could potentially be this person, and I need to save them.
Yes. And it was like the best compliment when a teacher would tell my boyfriend, like, you need to keep dating her because your grades are coming up and you're making better choices. And I'm like, I knew they had it in them. I knew they could. And part of that's just who I am. I do
Yeah.
believe that people have great capacity
Yeah.
to change and become better. We all do if we want it. But that was something that was important to me. And then I also just did not think that the good guys would be interested in someone like me.
Mhm.
So, like, even in high school, there was this really, and he's an incredible man. And I thought he was just my buddy. I was like, he would never be interested in somebody like me. And looking back, I'm like, oh, you
Oh, young
foolish
Tasha.
girl. He was definitely interested in me. But there was another guy who was a lot more aggressively pursuing me and was rough around the edges and ended up, of course, treating me terribly. I mean, of course, but the good guy who was popular, good grades, highly intelligent, strong emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, just a really great quality person. I was like, I think he's just being my buddy. Because I had a lot of buddies too.
Yeah,
Like, I
right.
loved my guy friends. But I think it really was a combination of wanting to help them improve and be better human beings.
Yeah.
And a really good guy is not going to want me.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you reframed them. You took that skill of, you know, you're headed down the wrong path, and so I'm going to do my superpower, and I'm going to reframe you, and I'm going to make you good. I'm going to turn you into somebody amazing. Uh, and all the while thinking, this is my lot, because nobody that would ever think that way about me would ever be interested in me. you
Right.
know
Right. And
I
also
could.
a lot of them came from rough home
Yeah.
lives or,
Yeah.
and I thought, man, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to have the family that I do.
Yeah.
And, the therapist that I saw when I was 10 even made it a point to tell me that I was fine because I'm loved.
Hmm.
And she was like utilized by the school corporation,
Yeah.
was supposedly award winning. My parents did not mess around when they tried to find, especially my mom. Let's be real, it was my mom researching it and finding the
Yeah.
person for me to go to, and found the best they possibly could in our area.
Yeah.
And she planted some really bad seeds. As an adult, I get where she's coming from. But as a 10-year-old, those messages were received, internalized, and were not useful.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that good doesn't erase bad.
Yeah.
Just like you were trying to do as a kid, you erase the bad with good. You know, you can't say, well, because of all of these wonderful things. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. Because of all these wonderful things, it means that all of these horrible things that happen to you don't matter. And so you're fine. That's just not the way it works.
It isn't, and it's really, I don't have too many pet peeves. I don't even know if this is called a pet peeve. I cannot stand it when people dismiss children's emotions and experiences because they can go back to laughing and playing, and they say things like, children are resilient, they're fine. It's like, no, children suppress it,
Mhm.
internalize it, and then it comes out as they get older, and then they have to deal with it. So don't
Yeah.
mistake the fact that children can laugh and play and kind of compartmentalize and function in both worlds, that they're resilient and can just move on. That's not how trauma works. That's not how hard experiences work. That'd be
Yeah.
kind of like me seeing an adult like who's lost a loved one and they're able to laugh at the funeral because they're hearing a story and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, they're fine. Adults are resilient. See, they're laughing." That's
Yeah.
not how it works.
Yeah. I think that's really important to note. And it's okay to laugh. It's not inappropriate to laugh. You don't have to live in that dark space all the time, but it's also okay to hurt. It's
Yeah.
okay to say that that hurt me.
Yeah.
And you can be both,
Yeah.
hurting and happy, you know.
You have
Yeah,
to
in the same
live.
space. Yeah,
Right?
right.
That's part of survival. Like you have to still function in this world that's not
Hmm.
going to slow down because you're having a hard time.
Yeah.
So you have to have both.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
both can exist in you, like you said.
So you were 10. You came to this realization that you'd experienced this trauma when you were very young, a trauma that you would never wish on anybody.
Mm-mm.
Your parents, you shared it with them, so that is awesome and amazing. The fact that even your 10-year-old self realized that this is something I need to share. Like I can't suppress this anymore. I need to share it. And then your parents, being the amazing people that they were, believed you and tried to get you the best help that they could find, which had, some not great consequences too. But you being Tasha, you persevered and you continued on, and maybe dated a few lost causes, as as they might have been perceived at the time, to try and change the world or make the world a better place. Um, but at the end of the day, you made it through high school. You survived.
Oh,
Um, what's your overwhelming sense of high school? If you could kind of like explain your high school experience, or your middle school and high school experience, like in a nutshell, what would you say? Like, what was that for you?
there's not enough hours in the day, Kelly.
Oh,
I'm
just
just kidding.
yeah, fair, fair, fair.
Yeah.
Give it a go. Let's see what comes out.
One of the things that I do appreciate about my transition from middle school to high school was I did have in high school, even amidst all the
Hmm.
pain and challenges, I also still had this like strong sense of standing up for other people
Mm,
and trying to do the right thing. Not that I always did, but if I saw somebody getting picked on, that did not happen around me in high
mm,
school.
mm,
It was unacceptable. And I did not care if I caused a scene. Like it just did not happen because when you know what it's like to be picked on, then
mm.
you have a responsibility to stand up for other people. And part of that's my dad and my younger brother were all the same way. So I don't know that that's directly related. I think that's like a DNA thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
Um,
environmental too. I mean, you lived around that philosophy, so
yeah,
it's what you do. It's what the Harpers do.
yeah. And so I am thankful that I made those types of choices.
Hmm.
And, I had some good friendships in high school in particular that I still have today, which
That's
is really
awesome.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't take that for granted. And, I just wish everybody remembered how hard high school can be, because I feel like you always have to be on. Like I would go to morning swim practice and you got to perform, right? You got to finish the practice, do the best you can. Then you know, have to get ready for school, not smell like chlorine too badly, eat your breakfast, go to school all day and perform. Like you have to sit in class and do your job as a student, which sometimes my teachers let me sleep because I was so exhausted. I had so much anxiety. I had depression in high school, to the point that I was seeing therapists, a psychiatrist, all of that. And I'm thankful that some of those teachers like let me sleep sometimes because I was just so exhausted. And then you go to practice after school or a swim meet and have to perform and do your best again. And then you go home and have dinner and then have to do your homework. And sometimes, you know, my day would start at 5 o'clock in the morning. So 3 days a week, it would start at 5 o'clock in the morning. And a lot of times wasn't done until midnight.
That's
I don't know
ridiculous.
how I kept functioning. And so
Kind of
then
sounds like you didn't to a certain
no,
part.
not very well. So I hope people give teenagers some grace. Like
Mm,
I was so exhausted sometimes that I would just sleep all weekend. If I had a weekend, sometimes that's all I did was just lay there and watch movies and sleep because I was so spent.
Did you ever
So
think about just quitting? Like, just this is ridiculous. This is too much. It's, killing me. Just, it's not worth it. Did that ever cross your mind?
well, actually, there was an upperclassman who quit swimming for that reason because swimming is a very demanding sport. Like, if you don't like a lot of sports, you could not do it maybe for a few days and you're still going to be okay, right?
Hmm.
Swimming, we don't swim all the time. So you have to be in the pool to keep that muscle memory and that feeling and the fluidity and all of that. Like, if you're out of the pool for a week, you're like, man, how did I forget how to swim in a week, right?
Hmm.
And so, you know, it's morning swim practices 3 days a week after school and then Saturdays. And she quit because it was too much. And she was highly intelligent, really gifted swimmer, had school records, everything. And I remember thinking, like, what is she doing? I cannot believe she did that. And looking back, I'm like, she really made the right choice for herself for her senior year so that she could experience high school in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, And I did tell my coach one time, I was like, Coach, I have to quit. And he's like, okay, you're supposed to convince me to stay. And he's like, if you really wanted to quit, you'd quit. It's like, he was such a good coach. I absolutely adore him. And he said that a lot of times people quit or get burnout because they don't have goals anymore. So it sounds like you need to create a goal. And that was really good advice. I didn't tell him that I wanted to quit because it was too much. I'm an achiever. Nothing's too
Yeah.
much, Kelly.
Yeah. Interesting though that your reaction to, okay, I'm overwhelmed, I'm sleeping in class, I'm feeling depressed, is to double down.
Yeah. Yeah, because something's wrong with me. Like, I should be able to do this. And I mean, to be fair, like, we did have a class of very high achievers, you included, who highly intelligent people, very successful people. I'm very proud to be part of Wallace's 2002 class.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a good
That's
group.
it is. And yeah, I mean, yes,
The
there were a lot
bar
of,
was high.
yeah, a lot of amazing people came out of our class, that's for sure.
So I
Um,
think there was like a distorted sense of what's possible when our valedictorian only needed 4 hours of sleep at night. That's not even fair.
it's not. And he's like,
And I
oh, I
love
only
him.
got an A plus instead of an A plus 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 plus.
I know. And I absolutely love him. I know you do too,
Yeah, I
but
do too.
still, like, it would annoy me so much. He'd be like, man, I'm a little tired today. And I'm like, why? He's like, I only got 3 hours of sleep. I'm like, listen.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, if I didn't get 9 hours of sleep, I was completely dysfunctional. So on the flip side, we weren't all like that. Um, but I just feel like that's such it's such an important, it's groundwork for what's to come in your future, because even in like the most ridiculous circumstances, you double down, you persevered, you push yourself even harder, you found that next gear to get through. um when a lot of people would have not given you any grief at all for saying, it's too much, I need to take some time, I need to take a break. Now, not that I'm advocating for that particular, you know
Right.
attitude or approach to life, but I do think that speaks to what's to come in your future, and adds to the toolbox that helped you get through some things and work through some things too. Um, so I just think it's important to dive down into those little rabbit holes
Yeah.
and kind of explore um, why you are the way that you are.
Yeah.
Um,
When I also think like with my parents, the type of
mhm,
business that they had, it didn't matter that my
yeah,
parents were exhausted. It didn't matter that my mom had pretty much constant strep throat when I was in high school because she was burning the candle at all ends while my dad was also burning the candle at all
yeah.
ends to keep going. Like when you have a business and it's hybrid seed corn and all of
This is
that,
your 15 minutes. It doesn't matter if you're exhausted. You got to
yeah,
go.
you got to go and you got to do it. And so I think there's some genetic wiring,
Yeah.
environmental,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful for all of it, but also there's balance in life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's not really balance, it's just trying to figure out, what makes sense for where you are right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I am grateful, Kelly, to have you be part of this conversation with me and to be such a safe friend and beloved friend, because this is a tough conversation to have. So thank
Yeah.
you for being somebody that's safe.
Absolutely. I'm honored. Thank you for thinking of me that way. That's what I would like to be. That's what I want to be for you. And again, I think your story is very powerful. I'm sure that a lot of people listening, or hopefully a lot of people listening, hear some tidbits of themselves in your story and can find some camaraderie, some a moment of empathy, and some space to feel seen and heard too, because I think that's important. The human experience is not it's not a straight path by any stretch of the imagination, and sometimes with the Facebook and or the social media persona, this perfect polished image that a lot of people put out there, you can feel like your struggle is yours alone, but I think it's important to realize that it's not a singular struggle, and that even people like, I always thought of you as such a perfect, pristine person. I had no idea that how much you were struggling in high school. I just never saw it. I didn't have a clue. And so just goes to show that what you see on the surface isn't necessarily what's going on below. So I think this is a really good place to pause.
Yeah.
Um, and next time we'll dive into what came next.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Tasha. I know your childhood is one that it is a tough one to talk about sometimes, not just because of the bad things, but sometimes the good things too are hard, just because
Yeah.
they're memories. So,
Thank you,
well,
Kelly.
absolutely.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Diary of a Dreamer. I hope you found the stories and tips shared today to be a source of motivation and strength. Remember, every challenge you face is a chance to grow and move closer to your dreams. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with anyone who could use a boost of encouragement. Please check out my website, TashaEizinger.com.